Hello and welcome back to the Sell Like You podcast with me, Harriet Meller. I hope you are enjoying our rebrand, our fresh new look, which you may have seen on the app, wherever you are listening to us from. It's been received really well. I'm really excited to have it live and really elevate, really get us towards where we actually want to be with our goal for this podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you are following. That is also known as subscribing, but it is called following on your app. So please do that. It will mean that you'll never miss an episode, but it will show us where you're listening from and also to show us that people are subscribing, which ones you are enjoying the most as well. So thank you so much for being here. And this is lesson 3 in my 4 lessons in 4 years at Your Sales Co. Now, this lesson is about outsourcing and growing your team and making that a priority. Now, whether you are a business owner or you're running a sales team or you're within that sales team, thinking about ways that you can outsource and be able to do your job to a higher level is ultimately where this comes in. And so just like any investment, the cost to give you your time back is well worth it. And it's something that I think really took me a little bit of time to get used to, because when you're in that startup phase, and for me, it was myself and my services and me delivering, that training. I spent that first year doing most things, but quickly was able to outsource, web design, brand and accounting, because they are definitely not my zone of genius. Now, for those of you that don't know, I did used to have another business previously. It was a day spa. It was based in wellness, and we were really focusing on women that were coming in that either needed that time out, that space to be able to unwind and really relax. And I had that business for about 3 or 4 years until we sold it, and another company purchased it to make it as their second location. Now, during that time, we had a whole host of people within the business running treatments, and we outsourced a lot of the functions within there. At the time, I was working full time, so I had to outsource things and the majority of things because I wasn't there on the day to day, but was able to focus on the areas that I did really well. And so same thing with Your Sales Co. I was able to outsource some of those areas, I guess really that I had comfort in, because I knew I'd done it before. I'd seen it work really well within that business. And so coming into this business, I knew I needed to also be able to work really efficiently, but therefore I had the connections and the contacts and the trust with the people I was able to outsource that to. And so one of the first, really key positions that I recruited for in the business was a VA. Now, I would class a VA as like almost a subscription, a subcontractor. And in those early stages, because you are paying either an hourly rate or you're paying a fee per week and you're getting the work done for you. And it's certainly something as a VA, I speak to a lot of my clients about how VAs can really support them in sales admin, in how they can become more effective with automation, and also being able to do the admin tasks that don't require somebody at a maybe more higher level within the business, requiring a higher price point. If we think about sales admin within a team, if we look at our sales team, the most effective way for our sales team to support the business in generating revenue is to going out there and having conversations with ideal clients. It's to build a prospect list. It's to lead gen. It's to build your pipeline. And so if your salespeople are spending forever in emails, replying to emails, writing up quotes, doing all of those administrative tasks, it means that you're taking them away from the day to day. And so the same thing in business was that I found that I was doing a lot of these administrative tasks and these repetitive tasks. And that's where VAs are really good. These repetitive tasks that we were able to outsource. So the VA at the time supported me with updating tiles and PowerPoint presentations ready for my training engagements. They were also able to ensure that the podcast went out, that went out every single week or fortnight. I think when we were doing it back then was around that time. And so it made sure that I was able to focus on other areas in the business and be able to then keep focused on what it was that we were trying to do, ensure that our customers had the best level of service and we were able to keep progressing. Now there are many tools out there. And when I first started, we definitely didn't have ChatGPT. And, AI tools certainly have their place. Like we certainly do leverage those within the business. And I certainly recommend for those of you that haven't yet, go and check them out. I did do an episode on using ChatGPT in sales, and I have been asked to do another one because I think that was nearly a year ago. So I will be sure to add that to my list. But in the meantime, if you think of a VA that requires a certain person, it's not necessarily something that we can use through an AI tool. Or maybe you want a little bit more personalization to check through the AI tool content that you're putting together if you're leveraging those. So anything to do with admin, wrap-ups, information gathering, something as well that was great was just ensuring that the finer details were checked. So if you don't yet have a VA, then certainly something I would recommend looking at early on, if possible. And whether you are the business owner or you're running a sales team or you're a salesperson in the team, think about some of the tasks that you do that could certainly be supported elsewhere and wouldn't require somebody with your level of expertise to execute. Now, continuing on with my lesson, focusing on that growth and outsourcing of team, it took me about another 2 years to hire my first full-time employee. And for me, that was an absolute game changer. I think it took me about 6-9 months to hire. And if, we use that as an example, I don't recommend you waiting that long. If I could go back and change it, I would have done it maybe 2 years earlier. I certainly recommend taking time to find the right person. Now, I always leverage LinkedIn. LinkedIn's always been where I've hired all my VAs, my editor, now full-time employees, and then salespeople. So LinkedIn is a great place to look, to get started, to connect. I utilize the LinkedIn job posting, but you can also reach out to people that you see as being an ideal fit for your business. Now, within those first 3 months of employing that full-time employee, I could really see the opportunity to really skyrocket what it was that we were doing in the business. Because the difference between a full-time employee and a VA or somebody who's a subcontractor is that they are in the business. You're giving them access to everything. And when I first employed her, I read a book which was written by Simon Sinek, and it's called Leaders Eat Last. And the book I found was actually recommended by the founder of Spring Spa. So if you are local to Australia, you will have definitely ventured out to Bali. And in Bali, they have, I think it's about 5 spas now, and they also have a couple in New Zealand. And in an interview, she was asked, what's the number one book you would recommend? And she recommended Leaders Eat Last. So I bought that as part of the onboarding process, and really learned a lot about what made me tick as an employee. Because the people I've worked for, I've been extremely passionate about their business, and I've treated the work that I did and that I have done as though that was reliant on me, as though the business was connected to me. And I don't really know how that happened, and I couldn't really put my finger on what it was. Who was it that I worked for that really gave me those insights, or really gave me that platform to learn? What I did know was that I was let just to kind of go wild, and I could go back to them for support and, to really keep me on the right track and to, I guess, really challenge me. But there was areas about what I was doing where I was like, I just don't know why I did that or how I was able to really find my way there. And what this book taught me was that looking at employees as giving them no barriers. So giving them as little barrier to doing their job as possible. So if they require you to put a password in every time, or if they require you to do something or to let them in somewhere or give them something, it's going to be really inconducive to them actually doing their role. And so what I realized was that everybody I'd worked for where I'd seen great success, I had been given full reign. I'd been given absolute trust. I had been included in decisions. I had been included in the goals and the direction. And when I was involved in that, I really could see the connection between how I could have an impact on as part of that goal for that organization. And so it meant I worked harder. It meant that I applied myself in so many different ways. And so I really want to build or foster a culture within the business that will allow the team that I'm bringing on within your sales co to be able to do that as well. And so I guess really my lessons here was around looking at where was I able to see success? And where was that? Where did that come from? Where did that stem from? What did those leaders and the managers, during my years in corporate selling, in my career, how did they enable me? How did they nurture me? How did they help me grow? Because I put a lot of that down to the people that I worked for. And so how do I then foster that within my business? So my lesson there is around hiring quicker, hiring quicker on, or earlier on, I should say, not quicker, hiring earlier on in the journey. And then being able to then translate what it actually is that's going to help them to progress. How can I nurture them? How can I help them grow? Rather than seeing it as a massive cost, I guess, really to the business, and that I need to get every bit out of you. Because I've found that by doing that, I get so much out of the team being able to show up in that way. And so now looking back, as I mentioned before, definitely hiring earlier was certainly a lesson. But if we look at the lessons that we did take, is then around really nurturing and really enabling them to come through. Because what we've then been able to see is that as soon as we've taken on the right people in the business, we've had so much success, and we've been able to do so much more with what we've generated. And it's just been incredible to see. And it's certainly a journey that we are very much still on. So the lesson here is about outsource and also growing your team. But a little tip for an outsourcing perspective. Now, this may be from an AI tool, it may be from a VA, or it may be from a full-time or part-time employee. It will really depend on where you're at and where you're looking to go, what you're trying to achieve. And so there was a little tool that was shared with me many, many years ago. And I think this was even before the first business. And it was looking at outsourcing and about becoming more effective. And a lot of this is related down to like high performers and how they live their lives. And so this was around having a page. So if you're driving, don't do this. But if you are not, and you've got the ability to grab a piece of paper and a pen, grab a piece of paper, split it into 4. So like do a big cross through the middle. So you've got 4 squares on your page. And across those 4 squares, you want to write each one of these headings across the 4. So the first one will be, what are you good at and like doing? The second is, what are you good at but don't like doing? The third is, what are you not good at but like doing? And then the fourth is, what are you not good at and you don't like? Now, this was a great place for me to start, because I was able to look at things that just because I like them doesn't necessarily mean I'm good at them. It also relates into, revenue generation. And part of this process was actually attaching a cost or an investment or an opportunity, monetary value next to these tasks. So, for example, I'm good at and I like doing walking the dogs. Like that was like from a personal perspective, that was, what I really don't ever want to give up. So that's something that I do every single morning. Some mornings I have to get up very early. At the moment, I'm walking in the dark because it is very dark still at 5:30 a.m. But ultimately, it's about finding things that you are good at and that you like. So that was an example from a personal perspective. If I look at the parts of the business within your sales co, if I think about what am I good at and what I like, sales training and enablement. I absolutely love it. I can do it all day long. I never tire of it. 12-hour days, throw them at me. I'm here, ready to go. I really enjoy it and I'm good at it. I also like the client management side of things. I love doing all my client check-ins. I really like them and I'm good at it. If I look at things that I'm good at but don't like, I'm really good at accounts, really good at managing numbers and knowing where we need to go to in the business, but I really don't like it. And so that would go in my list. And so that was where, obviously one of the areas I talked about outsourcing was there. Same thing can then happen if we go through the revenue generating tasks. If I look at marketing or creating leads, lead magnets, I quite enjoy them. I'm just not very good at it. I can't visualize that, the view of the brand or the colors or the way that it all goes together. Hence why, if you've been following us for a little while, you've seen a massive uplift in our podcast brand. The first one I did on Canva. And it certainly got us where we are today. But it wasn't a reflective of the type of business and the type of podcast that we are. And so therefore I was able to enlist the support of somebody that knows exactly what they're doing. They're incredible at what they do. And have been able to then support us and almost it felt like overnight we're in the charts. So again, showing the difference between what it is that we're good at and what it is that we are not, but also being mindful of what we like versus what we don't. So we can be good at something, but not like it. And so therefore, is there an opportunity there to be able to outsource it? But the best square to really start on is that what are you not good at and don't like? Then what are you then not good at, but like? How can you maybe weave some of that in if you want to maybe learn, or be able to then support somebody else coming in that you are able to show them the ropes, but you're not necessarily enjoying it, but you are good at it, and vice versa. So it was a little exercise for me that really helped change the way that I approached outsourcing. And sometimes, you'd approach the things that feel like they just take you forever, which is great because obviously you're going to save some time. But is it best placed? If you look at, let's say for us, lead generation, then lead generation is not necessarily something that I would outsource to a low paid model. I want somebody that is really good. It's a reflection of my business, a reflection of the training and enablement that I deliver. So the people that work for us in a sales capacity have to be of the highest caliber and be able to go through the methodology and the training that we provide. And so for that, that's not necessarily something I would outsource to just absolutely anybody. Whereas my reconciliation for accounts can pretty much go to anybody because it's pretty black and white in terms of how we approach things. So that just gives you a few ideas of how you can assess your model, how you can assess using that 4 grid. And by all means, go back if you are listening to this in the car, or if you're out on a walk or you haven't got time to quite do that, definitely go back to the 4 squares on 1 page. It will really help you make better decisions. And that is me for my lesson 3 for outsourcing and team growth. I also want to add that now we have a team that's responsible for content, podcasting, audio, editing, brand marketing, outbound and lead gen. I'm also learning to let go of my calendar. This is still a work in progress because I find my time is just something that I'm always trying to manipulate to make the most out of my day, to give me the most amount of time for freedom thinking or to be able to have some downtime. And so, be really mindful of where you're at, challenge yourself, utilize the tools. But if you are early on in those stages, or even if you are within a larger organization, consider ways that you can bring automation or potentially even a VA into that world, because I can really see the benefits across a number of our clients and really hope that these insights have helped you and sharing the lessons that I've learned over the last 4 years. So I'll be back for lesson 4 soon. Make sure you are following if you're not already. Thank you again so much for being here. And you can find and connect with me over on LinkedIn. It's my favorite platform to be. But have a wonderful week ahead and I wish you much success.